I'm 23 and I have invested a huge amount of money for the length of time that I've actually spent working. I've only been in the workforce for a little over a year. So far, I've squirreled away a solid 37k and I have absolutely no plans of stopping. I don't tell people this, but I'm doing it because I'm a loser weirdo hermit who values peace, security, and freedom. I'm essentially LARPing as a corpo manager leader to fuel my ultimate end of being a loser weirdo hermit. I have no strong desire to participate in society or the world. I enjoy staying home, lifting my weights, playing my video games, going for long scenic walks, and smoking my czar, while occasionally getting away on an adventure or catching up with my friends and family. I'm going to give you some backstory and context behind who I am and what my life has looked like so you kind of understand my situation. I realized this was the lifestyle for me back in high school, but back then I made no attempt to hide it, and I definitely paid no mind to how I could eventually sustain this lifestyle indefinitely. I must have been around 13 or 14 when I started taking ridiculous amounts of time off school to stay home and grind video games like GTA, Minecraft, Fortnite, and Conan Exiles, if you even know what that is. In hindsight, it probably predisposed me to grinding as hard as I do at just farming real life money as well, but that's probably a subject for another video. People told me I'd regret it, but honest to God, those were probably the happiest times of my life, as insane as that might sound to some of you. I was the closest I'd ever been with my friends, who were essentially all online at that time and didn't live near me. I felt the happiest I'd ever been in a lot of ways, except for the ostracization that it earned me. I stayed in high school and got a crappy ATAR simply because I didn't know what else to do. After high school, I sort of half-assedly worked a couple of jobs, mostly in construction, but I knew I'd hate my life working in that industry. It just wasn't for me at that time. To be fair, I didn't actually half-ass it, I worked my ass off, but I had no plan to stay there and I always wanted to quit. After about half a year in construction, I hopped into a bachelor's degree in social science psychology. A couple of months before construction, I actually worked as a groundskeeper at a school, which was actually a pretty chill job. I basically spent all day gardening and listening to podcasts. It was pretty fire. I even got a paid lunch break, I think, if memory serves. But I still found a way to work my ass off even in that job, even though I was still breaking the habit of essentially being a truant student back then. Point is, I hopped from work into studying. I didn't maintain a job alongside it for most of that time. I just stayed home and studied, living off the money I'd saved from working and government assistance and just the cheap living conditions of staying at home and having basically no life. I basically studied for 3 full years, trying moderately hard to earn a degree I figured it might land me a job that I maybe half liked. And during that time, that's when I also got really into lifting. Like, even when I was working construction, I was lifting, but like, I wasn't like super duper into it. Like, I was into it for the self-improvement and that sort of thing, but like I wasn't dieting like alongside it, and my training wasn't great. Like, it was relatively consistent, but it just wasn't like, I didn't really have like a split. It was just fun training, I guess, but I wasn't really going anywhere with it, wasn't making progress, especially in construction at that time. Like, there was just no amount of food I could eat to, compensate for the amount of calories that I was burning, and it was just hopeless. I was, if anything, getting weaker with time and skinnier. But anyway, I digress. I found some parts of psychology pretty interesting, but ultimately I don't know if I'll ever pursue a career in that field. I think deep down it was just an excuse to avoid participating in the real world. I ended up graduating with a pretty decent distinction average. My GPA would have been a lot better, but my first year was really shit. I was still figuring out how to make myself study for hours on end and how to put together high quality assignments. Academia didn't exactly come naturally to me, but I was able to just dump enough time into it that I could usually do pretty well. By my last few semesters, I was basically always getting 50% high distinction and 50% distinctions, which is pretty good, especially for someone like me who basically flunked high school. I think my ATAR, I know my ATAR was like 55, and like I was only attending like 2 to 3 days out of the full 5, every single week during high school. The only reason like they didn't kick me out or expel me or reprimand me really was because like when I was there, I genuinely did try. I paid attention, I asked questions, I did most of what I was supposed to when I was there. I just wasn't there very often, and I didn't fail most of my assignments. Some of them I even did pretty well in, just by chance and luck and maybe a bit of natural gift for English. Before my last semester of university though, I flew to New York City for a week, largely because I had a long distance relationship with a girl there at the time, and I figured it'd be a nice final hurrah before entering the long dark chapter of my life titled wage slavery. And it took pretty much all of the remaining money I had saved from working to to do that. I also moved back in with my mum because she was taking care of my uncle who was dying and my dog who was dying, and though I didn't know it at the time, so was my cat, who I loved more than anything in the world. So yeah, just a lot of dark shit. I probably should have mentioned this earlier as well, but I moved in with my dad during the second half of my degree because his health was pretty dodgy at that time, and I wanted to get to know him better, spend time with him, keep him company in case he wasn't going to be around much longer. His health ended up improving, thank God. But that's why I only recently entered the workforce. Not that I'm saying that all the personal tragedy stuff was the main reason, like it was just a contributing factor. If that stuff hadn't have occurred, I still almost certainly would have only entered the workforce towards the latter end of my degree, if at all. And that's the context behind me and the way that I am as a person. Essentially, after the New York trip, I came back, moved in with my mum the next week after being back, and within a month I'd landed the job at the commercial gym I now work at, just in the entry-level position, which is membership services representative. But within a year I'd worked my way up to assistant general manager just by being a reasonable worker and going the extra mile where I could. I didn't have a lot of like phenomenal workers around me. I don't think I had any super amazing workers really. Like, don't get me wrong, like a lot of the people I worked with at that time loved them. Most of them aren't even in the job anymore. Most of them quit. Pretty much all of them quit or just moved to a different job. I think one of them was fired. Another one was almost fired but quit before they could be. But like, I liked those people, but they weren't super duper phenomenal workers. But I really tried my ass off. Now I'm full-time with all the perks and benefits that come with it, on a salary of about 70k once the bump lands from that new raise the government's bringing in, and that's after being with the company for about 14 months total. The reason I want financial freedom is so I can return to the lifestyle that actually makes me happy. My vision for my happiest lifestyle includes side projects, not just lifting, but potentially something like YouTube or streaming or both. And that's kind of what I'm working on with this channel, seeing if I can make a start on that ahead of time. I don't need all sorts of flashy cars and material things. I just want enough of an engine that work isn't something I have to do anymore. Whatever I enjoy doing, if that happens to make me money, that's a great bonus, but it isn't required. I just want the security to be able to live my hermit loser lifestyle in peace and not have to worry. And this isn't to say that I don't enjoy significant aspects of my job. I do. I think leveling up in my role and improving the business and my team is very rewarding and satisfying, but I don't want to be chained to it indefinitely. At the moment, what I have my sights on, and this is subject to change, is just doing my best with this job and advancing in my career where possible, but ultimately, I'd like to get to a point where I have sufficient money to drop back to a much lower stress casual entry-level role and just coast with heavily reduced hours while focusing on side projects and living my life how I see fit. Essentially, this is like a lean coast-fi approach. I've done the math and I could start looking at doing something like that before I'm even 30 if I stay the course, depending on how the economy goes, of course. I use that goalpost along with that Alex Hormozy quote about grinding hard in your 20s because that's when you have the most time and energy to help quell the deep soul-crushing sadness of not yet being able to live exactly the life that I want. I really don't understand how people can work until they're 60 in jobs that they don't like. It just baffles me. The thought of that is just crushing to me, and I'll do whatever it takes to escape that fate. I yearn for that security and for that optionality. So the number I'm looking at to achieve this, assuming my expenses don't inflate too dramatically, is about 300k. And as we all know, the first 100k is by far the hardest part, and I'm already over 20% of the way there after just 6 months, while also holding over 12 months worth of expenses in my high yield savings account. The huge benefit of my ideal lifestyle is that it's extremely cheap, so that also contributes hugely to my truncated timeline. Honestly, if I lived exactly how I wanted to, or even just kept living how I am now, I worked out my goal number is more like 150k, but I wanted to account for some lifestyle inflation and just be more pessimistic than optimistic, just because I don't know exactly what I'll be like in the future, or what the world will look like in the future. So it just gives me a tremendous motivation to stay the course when I'm kinda, if you kind of think about it, I'm kind of like 20% of the way there already. Not really, but like, yeah. Basically, if you know who FaZe Jev is, he kind of lives like my ideal lifestyle, almost. Like, he just plays video games and obsesses about them and does YouTube as a community, and that's who he is. That's what he does all the time. He just gets to focus on that. That is what I desperately want. That is what I desperately want. The only difference for me is that I'm also obsessed with the gym, and I don't want to stop that. I could see myself dialing it back in the future, but I don't want to stop that. I also want to travel a little bit. You know, I don't have any strong desire to travel for huge amounts of time out of the year. but I do want to do it a little bit. So that would probably be my only difference there, but essentially Phase Jev is living my dream. So anyway, I just wanted to quickly hop on here and make this video because it was on my mind, and I wanted to make something that's a little bit more personal, because I want to see if there's anyone out there that's maybe a bit like me. I don't have super duper high expectations. I don't want a super flashy lifestyle. I just want to achieve my version of eudaimonia, my version of happiness, my ideal lifestyle. I don't need a lot, but such as it is, this is my atypical vision for my future and what I want. If anybody watches this, if you have any sort of a similar desire or a similar goal or vision for yourself or your lifestyle, please leave a comment. I would love to talk to you. I would love to not feel so alone in this pursuit. And also, I guess we can consider this my 1 subscriber special, because I noticed I somehow have a subscriber even though I don't have a single view on any of my long form content. I fully suspect that it was just like a complete misinput from someone who watched a short at some point and thought they were hitting the dislike button and accidentally like subscribed or something. But that's really cool to see anyway. I don't know if that's sad or not, but yeah, I was pretty stoked to see I'd somehow gained a subscriber. But yeah, if anyone's watching this, I hope you have a phenomenal day. I hope everything's good for you. I hope you have stability and abundance in your life. And if you don't have it currently, I hope it's in your future. Yeah, I hope you guys are just doing well, and I'll see you around. Bye bye.